They're still in the very last line. The school principal still retains discretion on when they can engage students. This bill has passed in 14 other states, including Tennessee and South Carolina. And that's really all this bill does.
Okay, thank you, Representative Chastain. Do we have any questions from the committee? Number 10. Is that Representative Howard? Is that you?
Yes, thank you. Real quick, I was just reading over this real quick. What is a patriotic society?
So Patriotic Society is listed Title 36 of the U.S. Code. There's several of them under there that's listed as I've got two or three that I just wrote down: Boys and Girls Club, ROTC programs, Veterans of World War II. There's several listed under that code as a patriotic society.
And what code is that?
That would be Title 36 of the U.S. Code.
Okay.
Thank you. Do you see any other? I don't see any other questions. My board is not lighting up. Number 22, Representative Donatucci.
Just real quick, I appreciate you doing this as a mom of 2 Eagle Scouts. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So let's see. We don't have anybody signed up to speak to this one. So if there's no further questions, I will entertain a motion. Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, shall this bill now pass? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, like sign. Okay, you're on to full.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll let you know when that is.
Okay.
This committee is going to stand in recess for a few minutes. Our next bill presenter is at the chairman's lunch, and currently Speaker Burns is speaking at the chairman's lunch, so I don't think they can get up and leave. So we will just be in recess until they can get here.
Yeah, I'm gonna run back off real quick. Sorry. I'll let the phone in the same place and I'm exactly sure where I am.
Okay, I'm gonna call us back into our committee session. So today our next bill is HB. I'm putting us after crossover. HB 340. Representative Hilton, would you like to tell us what LC number you have so we can make sure?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be reading from LC 492272S.
Okay, and whenever you are ready.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to keep my comments brief because the chair and the seatmate, I believe, has a bill after me. So I've learned the best way to pass your bill is to help the chair out. I'm here this afternoon to present to you House Bill 340, which in many respects is a mental health bill. It is a public safety bill and is an academic performance bill. This bill follows a trend that we've seen in many states who have either passed such legislation or working on legislation now that have all come to the general consensus, the common sense approach that phones should not be in the classroom while students are trying to learn. We spend billions of dollars every year trying to educate our children, and I would submit to you cell phones are one of the biggest distractions. I tell you guys, if you could, turn off your cell phones while I'm talking. And I say that because here's some of the data that I'll share with you. In an average school day, a child receives over 237 notifications on their phone. Children spend upwards of 90 minutes during the school day on their device. Teachers overwhelmingly, when surveyed, will tell you we need to get cell phones out of the classrooms. We have turned our teachers from teachers into cell phone police. And they have come to us, teachers, superintendents, saying, we love what we do. We love to teach. We don't want to be the cell phone police. Help us out with the right policy. Again, the data is overwhelming. If anyone's read the book, Jonathan Haidt, The Anxious Generation, cell phone usage, social media has taken a wear on our children. And so we've addressed that through a number of policies and bills that we've passed in the last couple of years. This is another step in that direction. I've spent extensive time talking to our public safety experts, including the Sheriff's Association, who's in support of the bill. And the number one thing they'll tell you, because this was my primary concern, as a dad of 3 children, I drop my children off at school every single day, and I want them to be in the most safe environment possible. And the safety experts were telling me, in the case of emergency, the last thing you need, Scott, is your child on this phone. They need to be listening to directions, getting where they need to be, not jamming up cell phones, not sending out misinformation or confusing first responders. After the emergency's been quelled, absolutely get these in the hand, get reunified with the parent. But that's why a lot of the public safety community has come to me and said, Scott, we are in support of this bill. We need this bill. All the work you guys are doing as a committee, and we've done tremendous work around school safety. This is another brick in that wall to strengthen our school safety. I have the bill itself, we'll walk through just briefly here. The main components, and I'll give you a little tagline here: bell to bell, no cell. Bell to bell, no cell. I'm not going to take credit, but yeah. Bell to bell, no cell. This is for K through 8. All right. We're not talking high school here, kindergarten through 8th grade. Some folks say, Scott, and if you look at the survey and the data, most of the problem is in the high school. And I think at some point we'll get there. But I think if we build a culture right now in K through 8 that you go to school to learn and not play on this, it's going to come over time. And so K through 8, bell to bell, no cell. Why bell to bell? A lot of folks say, well, Scott, should they take them out during the school day? 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. I mean, that's just as bad as having no policy at all. You take it out, the kids are distracted. You get back to the teachers having to police it. If you go beginning of the school day to end of the school day, and again, this is based on policy research from states and even inside Georgia. There's a number of school systems in Georgia, and we're going to hear from one of our superintendents up in Marietta who has implemented it and has seen tremendous results from that. A couple other important things to highlight to you. I want to point out we do make an exception for a couple things here. Number one, we make an exception for our IEP and special needs students, and I'm trying to find the lines here. But think about kids who have a glucose monitor or need need 67. Thank you. This is for glucose anything you need from that aspect. So we make an exception there. We make an exception for our virtual charter schools. So think about kids who are at home. Obviously, they ought to be taking an exception there. And then we also in the bill clearly outline, hey, schools, this is not, if a school has a tablet, a laptop, a school-owned device, we want to make it very clear. Obviously, you can use that for instruction. That's the crux of the bill. I'll pause. I've been talking too much. I'll pause for questions from the committee.
I see number 28. Is that Chairman Irwin weighing in?
Yes. Oh, boy.
Thank you, Chairman. Good bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman,
sir.
for this bill. First of all, is it Madam Chairwoman?
Mr. Chair, you can refer me to anything you like. Yes, sir.
I'm just
Sticking it
trying to
up.
check how
Madam
you're going to
Chairwoman.
respond to the chairwoman up there. This body or a similar body here in Georgia decided these items were very distractive to drivers. Is it not true that we passed a bill trying to make driving safer by not texting?
We did, and your analogy is pretty spot on. If it's not safe enough to drive with these, I don't think it's safe enough or productive enough to be in schools while you're trying to learn calculus, English, texting while driving or learning.
And Madam Chair, follow up.
Absolutely.
Can't we learn similarly the distraction it could be to learning that takes place for really everybody, and that it could be better used in the appropriate time?
Sir, studies show that it takes 27 minutes to refocus a student to refocus after they've gotten a notification. There's a great YouTube video out there. School in Texas, teacher said, okay, everybody put your phones out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a jot on the board every time one of you gets a notification. Every kid in the class, during the class, 45-minute class, each of them got 9 notifications. 9 notifications times the 30 students, 180 notifications just in that one class. Snapchat, Instagram, all that stuff popping up. It's nearly impossible to focus. Yeah.
Representative Chokas.
I'm definitely supportive of this. I would like for you to bring a companion bill to small business so that we could keep our employees off the cell phones as well. Thank you.
I was talking to a group of business leaders, and there was a business there who said, we've told our employees, when you're in the desk working, put this to the side because we are easily distracted. Yeah.
Chairman Dubnik.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman, for bringing this bill. If I could, I'm in support of your bill, but can you explain to the committee why this is K-8, not pre-K-12?
It's a good question. And we did have that discussion. I know we've got Miranda Williams with ExcelinEd coming on afterwards to explain why we don't do pre-K. Really 9 through 12 is a much bigger beast to tackle. You've got folks who are on their way to a job, or, it would be such a culture shock and shift that we wanted to kind of get students accustomed. Today's 8th graders are tomorrow's sophomores. And so I think in a couple of years, absolutely, this is something we'd like to address. Like I said, the problem is worse, frankly, in high school than it is K through 8. From a policy perspective, I think it's, let's put our toe in the water first and then jump in once we've shown it to work. Superintendent Rivera is going to get on the phone here in a second. The results from his school, and he's done K through 8, have been transformational. Students, my favorite story he shares is the cafeteria was quiet a year ago. Today it's loud. Kids are talking, they're interacting, they're socializing. That's why this is a mental health bill right here. But hopefully that addresses.
Follow up if I may.
Absolutely.
My wife reminds me often that I voted against the distracted driving bill. And my reason for that was because I said, you're not going to change my behavior over a $50 fine. You're not going to change it, especially when you give me the option at that time where I could go back to the court and say, hey, I just bought this Bluetooth piece for $9 and you erased my ticket. I commend you for your work. I'm going to vote in support of this bill, but I just challenge us all to think about, to your point, I've got 2 teenagers. These things are the bane of my existence in so many cases, and I understand that, but I challenge us as a committee and as a culture to consider that this should extend through 12th grade, but we'll live to fight another day together.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr.
Chairman.
Chairman. Appreciate you.
I'll highlight too, the bill is only 5 pages, and that's for a reason. We wanted as much local control, really it's bell to bell, no sell in K through 8. We want the locals to come up with a program that works best for them. And I've talked to numerous school systems all over. Some have boxes, some have the pouches, you know. I believe that the system ought to decide what program works best for them. We shouldn't be outlining that. Yeah.
Representative Howard.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Wilson, for this bill. My question was the same, why not K through 12? But I can understand we're just trying to get it started. And thank you. Representative said expand this to small businesses. Can we get an amendment to expand it to churches as well?
Amen. Yeah. Amen.
But my real question is, I guess a principal or somebody, superintendents can answer this question on line number 49, requiring parents and guardians who need to communicate with their students during the school day to contact the school directly. Is that going to increase any workload on receptionists, secretaries, or whatever? Will they have to hire new people because they probably hadn't been doing that for a while?
That's a fair question.
Okay.
That's a fair question. Yeah. One of the other things, and this is for the committee to debate and decide, that I'll throw out there as an idea. A lot of folks have said, Scott, we love this. Day one, we're going to start. Do y'all have any money around the program? And I've thought about adding a line or amendment in here that says, and again, this is at the committee's discretion, you know, maybe eSPLOS funds can be used to purchase pouches, maybe school safety money that we've been allocating. Again, I've sort of left that out intentionally to will the committee. But I'll tell you, the appetite out there from the schools is they're ready to go. If they had a little money that they could dip into, they'd go that much faster. Yeah.
Representative Lupton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question was also just, I could tell by reading the bill that this is not a one size fits all. You're not trying to dictate to districts what they should do. But I have no idea what the cost for a set of pouches for a school is or whatever. I mean, I've been to concerts where we've used, pouches and stuff like that. I have no idea what the cost for something like that is. Do you have any idea?
I'm going to get probably misquoted here. I think it's somewhere in the range of $15 to $25 a pouch.
Okay.
Superintendent Rivera, who's going to testify, they did buy the pouches, and I'm
They
sure
buy
he
the
could give you
pouches.
the exact number.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Rice.
Hi, Representative Hilton. I appreciate you bringing this. I'm very supportive of the bill, and I do believe there's so many components that it would help in our education, the academic performance, increasing the their attention span. That's certainly an issue. The safety, the bullying, less office reports come with schools that have already implemented this. I was curious, in my reading, do you know how many states already do this? Because I know it's not a new thing. It's new to Georgia, and I'm very excited that this is out there and that we're moving forward. Do you know how many other states are doing this? Because I've read good success with the plan.
Several, and I've got 2 folks coming to testify. Miranda Williams, as I mentioned, with Excel and Ed, and she can give you the exact number, but it is kind of like a brush fire. It's really, and what I love is it's not Republican states, it's not Democrat states, it's pretty much every state of every political leaning is doing this. Yeah. You mentioned the fights too. It's fascinating. As I talk to teachers and superintendents, these are used to organize fights during third period. And then not just the fights, but they're filming them and putting them on social media. So again, going back to the public safety aspect to this, that all kind of goes out the window. I mean, we've seen it in real world. There's a school in Florida. They had a 64% decrease in disciplinary incidents. It's having a real world impact, taking them away. Yeah.
Okay, number 17, is that you, Representative Adena?
Thank you for this bill. I'm a numbers guy, so I'm curious, and I appreciate every other part of the bill, but I'm curious in terms of the outcomes. What are some of the measurements that you have as relates in terms of increased performance?
So again, just going off, and this is a county in Florida that's done it. I mean, there's data, and I'm sure the superintendent will share the data from his own school. We've seen an increase. They had an increase in A's and B's. They had about a 10% increase in A's and B's, and about a similar decrease in the number of F's. I mentioned the 64% decrease in disciplinary threats, and actually a 7% increase in attendance. So just by about every metric, positive metric this committee would care about, the numbers are headed in the right direction as soon as those are out. Yeah.
Madam Chair, another question. So that means we should have an increase in Hope Scholarship, right? Getting ready for the outcomes, better outcomes.
We're going to have more A's and B's. So, yeah. Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good, Bill.
Yeah.
Representative Carter.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. That was for you, Chairman.
This is an inside joke for anybody. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for this. So I'm with everyone that's echoing the high schoolers, but based on the decision with keeping it at the grades that we have and the research that you've seen, do we have specific data and data points for this age group, excluding the high school students, that we've seen the increase in the grades and seen the different behavior by taking the phones away, which we all agree. So I would like to see if there was a significant difference. And do we have any data on the percentage of students at that grade level that actually have phones? And if we're not really going to make an impact, and I know you said we could come back, but it's really sounding like the issue is in high school. So those are multiple questions, and you can answer however you like. But we support you.
I hate to punt on all those questions. I've got the data in front of me here, but my preference as a committee, I always love hearing from the practitioners. And so I've got people who are a lot smarter than me. I'm going to phone a friend. They're on Zoom. And once we exhaust the questions, they're going to overwhelm you guys with data to give you the numbers. Yeah.
Okay, and we have exhausted the questions.
That's good. I'm exhausted.
So first we're going to hear from Miranda Williams via Zoom she's from Excel and Ed.
Well, hi everyone. I am Miranda Williams with Excel and Ed in Action, and it's so great to be with y'all today. Jessup, Georgia, and Georgia is my home, and so I've been traveling this week, but I hope to see you all soon. So thank you for including me today. But I am so excited to share about this bipartisan effort that we're seeing all across the nation. And I tell people all the time that this is, one, a policy that positively affects every student, each and every student in every state, and two, that it's the best way to preserve and protect instruction time. So I'll start there. And I broke my remarks down into why it's important, what other states are doing, and then some other helpful data points to help you all with this bill. But I think it's worth reiterating the Texas experiment that was done in a classroom. So a teacher said, all right, everybody put your phones on loud as they can go with every notification. And in one 45-minute class period, there were 9 disruptions per student. So that's just 45 minutes. If you can only imagine multiplying that by 6 or 7 different class periods, I mean, that is just incredible. And then we know that it takes 23 minutes to get refocused after that. It is a huge problem that is distracting our students, and not only our students, but the teacher is distracting the teacher, and it's also distracting the students that are near them and around that student that may have a notification going on. And in Georgia, Paige actually did some great teacher data that showed that more than half of surveyed Georgia teachers say cell phones and social media are a major issue in their schools across all grades, with over 85% of high school teachers and 68% of 6th through 8th grade teachers reporting phones as a problem. So we can see that it is a huge issue amongst our teachers. Representative Hilton shared the data from Orange County in Florida and Connecticut. And so we've seen positive data. We're also gathering that positive data as schools are enacting these policies across the nation. I also wanted to talk about the importance of a bell-to-bell policy. So when you do a bell-to-bell policy, there are two equally important reasons why you should look at bell-to-bell. One is we want kids interacting in the hallways and in the lunchrooms. We want them getting that face-to-face interaction and really engaging with each other. And two is if you just ban it during instruction time or just reduce phones during instruction time, then that teacher every class period is having to say, put your phone away, please put your phone away. And if it's removed at the beginning of the day and given back at the end of the day, that teacher doesn't have to be that enforcement piece every class period. And then I just wanted to share, the question came up about what other states are doing. In 2024, at least 19 states passed bills or enacted policies that restricted cell phone use statewide or either encouraged local districts to do so. And then more than half of the states in the nation right now are looking at similar legislation. And I serve in 5 states. I've got Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Alabama. And all 5 of my states are considering this. I'll give you a little bit of background on the states that are in our region and what they're doing. South Carolina banned cell phones bell-to-bell for K-12 in their budget last year. And they're looking at re-upping that budget initiative and then hopefully passing a piece of legislation the following year. North Carolina is also looking at this on both the House and the Senate side. Alabama is looking at a very strong policy. Governor Ivey announced it in her State of the State. And Tennessee's bill just passed out of committee. And so we're really excited about that as well. And I would love Georgia to take that on and pass a bell-to-bell policy. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
I do not see any. Thank you, Miranda. And are we ready for Dr. Rivera? We have Dr. Grant Rivera from Marietta City Schools.
Thank you so very much. Thank you for the grace in joining you. I'm up at the Tate House in North Georgia actually on vacation, whereas we're off this week. So thank you for allowing me to join you virtually. I'll just offer maybe some thoughts that are specifically linked to the questions that came in. So Marietta City Schools, limited cell phone access across our middle grades, grades 6th, 7th, and 8th. And there were some questions about, tell me the data and the impact that you've seen specifically in middle grades, given this is a K-8 discussion today. I can share with you in Marietta, we had 22% of our kids report that their classrooms were better this year than they were a year ago. Same kids, same school, 22% of them said that they could learn better this year in their classrooms than they could compared to a year ago. When you ask our teachers, and I think teacher burnout is relevant to this conversation, Representative Hilton made reference to teachers wanting to teach, not be the cell phone police. 68% of our middle school teachers, when we asked them to compare their experience this year or last year, said they're better able to do their job and they're less stressed. So I think those numbers speak to our middle school experience, and I think tie back to the questions that were asked earlier. I will share that for us, it's not just about the survey data that we've collected. And just as a note, we've done that in partnership with Emory University and Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. We have been carefully studying what's the impact on students, on staff, and on families. And just to share some other context that we've learned through that partnership and through our focus group interviews and our surveys, teachers report that kids are less likely to ask to go to the bathroom. And when they do, they're not gone as long because they would previously go to the bathrooms to check their phones. And we've seen a decrease in discipline in our schools. We also have seen less drama during the day. Quite honestly, Representative Hilton talked about our cafeteria. I'll also tell you about our after-school athletic practices. Our coaches report that when the kids have their phone away for the day, they are much more focused when they come to practice. Our bus drivers report that kids are better behaved on the buses. It has cut across every facet of middle schoolers' life in Marietta. Question was asked about the pouches. I certainly acknowledge how this is written and it's not specific specific to pouches, and I appreciate the discretion given to schools. In Marietta, we chose to use pouches. The question was asked, how much are they? They are $25.50 a piece. I think Representative Hilton, you made reference to this idea of East Blast. I will just say as a superintendent, I do think this is one of the most critical issues outside of safety, although linked to safety, that we are facing. I believe in with my whole heart, just as it was shared earlier about texting and driving. I think we're going to look back and we're going to see this as an epidemic that we have to respond to and respond to aggressively. So any flexibility that school districts can be offered to be able to afford a resource to solve this epidemic, if you will, I think is important to consider. But I appreciate, and I just want to say as an educator and superintendent, I appreciate not only the leadership around this bill, but also the conversations that happen, and my hope for the state of Georgia to be a leader in this conversation. Our schools deserve it, our kids deserve it, and quite honestly, our families want the help. And I think I'll close with this. Many of our middle school families have reported both to me directly and to our research team through Children's and Emory that one of the things they appreciate about this is that they're not feeling pressure to buy their kid a cell phone because they can't use it in school. And we're seeing many fewer kids even report having a cell phone this year compared to last year because they simply don't need it during the school day. So I appreciate the opportunity to share our thoughts, and Representative Hilton, thank you so very much for being included today.
Dr. Rivera.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rivera. We do have several people signed up to speak to this bill, and let's be mindful of our time. We only have this room until 3, and we do have another bill to take up. So if you could keep your remarks around the 3-minute area, that would be super good. Sally Stanhope from Georgia Association of Educators. If you could come to the podium.
I work at Chambly High School, and I actually led a book study on anxious generations at my school because it is a major problem. Our superintendent of DeKalb, he wanted to have phone-free schools this year. And he decided at the end of the summer, and he piloted different programs. And so he piloted both lockers and pouches. And then he let the rest of the schools develop their own phone-free systems. However, he did not specify bell to bell. And I think that's critical. And I really admire that you've specified that. And I'm incredibly, I'm in just complete admiration that Marietta City Schools got them off their buses. I think that middle school is probably the most dangerous time in terms of neurological development for our kids to be on their phones. So if we can only have phone-free schools, if we can only make it politically K-8, if that's the only possibility, I think that's a great, you said it, getting your toes wet. I would rather just jump right in. I think right now, high schools are dependent on cell phones. We use them as passes. We use them to track student movement. So I do think it would be a big switch, but the great news about public
Ma'am,
education.
can you just speak and pull the mic down just a little bit?
The
Thank
great
you.
news about public education is educators are used to policies completely switching, and we are adaptable humans. And I think most educators, it might be really hard to implement, and there might be some administrators that don't carry out the implementation in a way that really helps teachers. But I think expanding this to 9 through 12 is key. And I think all the reasons of why we need to expand this and why we need to have this have been mentioned, except for the equity issue. Jonathan Haidt, Haidt, I don't know how to pronounce his name. He points out in Anxious Generation that it's our Black and brown teens that get their phones the earliest. They spend up to 2 more hours on their phones than higher income white students. Additionally, students are already spending 7 leisure hours on their phones. And so, of course, this bill is not going to take that on, but it will get rid of the leisure hours in school. And as a teacher, I have a phone wall hanging where students are supposed to put their phones. Very few students do. And I don't have time for a power struggle. You know, I always say, let's have integrity, let's put up your phones, and you can't go to the bathroom in my class if you don't have your phone up. So that's difficult. But again, no one can have a power struggle over a student's phone because we don't have parental support. I think having this mandate from the state level will increase parental support. And I want to say one more thing about safety. I think it's already been said, but maybe y'all don't consider this. And this is one reason I think this bill is so well written. It specifies listening to music. And our kids listen to music between classes very loudly. Some never take out their AirPods all day long. Girls wear their hair down like this so you can't see their AirPods or their hoods up. And that is a safety issue in regards to an emergency. We have a weapons detection system at Chamberlain. You have to stop students if they, don't pass, like going through, and tell them to go through again, take out their binders and stuff. And a lot of kids can't even hear that direction. And so that is a safety issue. And it's just too much on teachers right now when parents have, they're fighting, but no one's that successful. So I think I really recommend to change this bill and just do the unpopular mandate of diving in. And I don't think it will be popular because I think it will be very hard to implement in 9 through 12. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Margaret Ciccarelli from Page.
Good afternoon. I appreciate sharing comment and support for this bill on behalf of the 93,000 educators across the state we represent. As Miranda already mentioned, we recently surveyed our educators about this in the fall, and more than 3,000 educators responding said that cell phones were very disruptive in a school setting. That number is nearly 70% for middle school and rises to 85% for high school educators. So we support this legislation. As Representative Hilton knows, we do wish that it went a little farther and covered high school. We do not want to hurt the chances of this bill passing by and affecting in the positive middle schools and elementary schools, but we do hope y'all will consider high schools as well. And that could be done in several ways. You could either amend this bill now, if that is something that the author and others think is a good idea, or you could do a staged implementation of the prohibition. That's another possibility. Another thing to consider, though, is an acceptable use policy. Some educators around the state have contacted us who support this legislation and said sometimes we have students use under educator supervision their cell phones during the day. So you might consider an acceptable use policy similar to the ban on social media use during schools, where you wrote an acceptable use policy in that said a district could adopt that at the local level as long as it was done under the supervision of an educator, that acceptable use in the classroom. So that's something to consider, staged implementation. But on the whole, guys, this may be one of the most important bills we consider this session. We are so grateful that you brought it and can't wait to work toward implementation with you.
Representative Lupton, do you have a question for Ms. Ciccarelli? Okay. Are you waiting? You want to wait or?
I can wait.
Okay. Michael O'Sullivan.
Thank you so much. This is probably one of my favorite bills of this session. It's truly going to change lives and help kids learn, which is essentially why we're all here. There are a couple points that weren't made that I think are worthwhile. And one is that there was a study that was conducted by Stony Brook University looking at cell phone usage in schools. And while Representative Hilton did talk about how the average is an hour and a half of usage, 25% of kids are using it for more than 2 hours during the school day, with a maximum of more than 5 hours during school. There's no learning happening there. If you want to look at all of the things that we can do. We've long maintained that schools should be a place of learning, socializing, engaging in education, free of the distractions that phones bring, that social media brings, that gaming and texting might bring. The data on this is crystal clear that student usage of cell phones in the classroom is harming them, is harming their focus, is harming their performance, and is harming their mental health. These are things that we can address. And I truly believe that years from now, we're going to look back and say, how did we wait so long? How did we not see this message earlier? How did we not act? We are thankful that this bill exists. We are extremely supportive of it. We wish it went further than just K through 8. K through 8 is the minimum. There is no reason why a 4th grader or 7th grader should be utilizing a cell phone in school. None. And if you ask principals, what they will say is that every year that we delay, more students in more grades have it. More students in high school have it, and earlier it goes. Down, down, down. So address it now, phase that out. And hopefully one day we will be in a place of being able to get rid of it in high school, because that's where the problems are. That's where the most problems are. So we support this bill. We commend you. I hope that this bill gets unanimous support. Our kids need it. Thank you.
Thank you. John Zahner with the Georgia School Superintendent Association.
Well, let's see. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to just say a couple of words and just be a few words. Seems like everybody's established the fact that we need to remove cell phones, K-8. The debate may be 9-12. And I think, being a former high school principal, I don't want to be the phone police, but I think that if we establish K-8 and it's a firm grasp, you will, in a short amount of time, be able to move it to the 9-12 arena. So I would support it at K-8 right now, knowing that we can build that culture, actually break that culture, and create a new one at 9-12 in a pretty short amount of time. So thank you for that. I do also want to thank the author for their recognition of students that actually use cell phones to communicate when they have special needs. I think that's important. It is a federal law under IDEA, so I appreciate that flexibility and that recognition. I do want to make one small caution. Although I read this again and it didn't jump out at me as much, but I appreciate the flexibility when you say on line 74, which may include but not needed to be limited to assigning a designated school personnel to oversee implementation and adherence. All I will say there is that we are filling the plates of our school teachers, our administrators, with a lot of administrative duties. And I would just caution you, and I appreciate the flexibility here, but I would caution you in the future as we write bills that keep that in mind, that they are overwhelmed. And I don't see us taking a whole lot of things away. We just seem to be adding to the plate. So appreciate the bill. Chairman Hilton, I appreciate that. And I know you talked to Bubba Longrear, who works for GSSA as well, and he was very supportive and had a great conversation with you, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have a couple of students to speak to the bill. And first up is Blake. If you'll come up to the podium, and then Elizabeth.
Hi, I am Blake. As a student, I feel that many students are like really addicted to their phones. And I feel like the lunch period would be a great time to let them have their phone, because it's a social period, yes, but also a lot of students aren't very social. They're very antisocial. And as an antisocial person, you don't want to interact with other people. Now, you would want them to interact with people, but some people just don't like interacting with people. So I feel like having a lunch period to like go on their phones would be a beneficial time for them. Also, I would like to say that pouches. It's a good way to hide the phone, but I feel like a good drawer, like lots of teachers have desks, drawers also work, but many students, they just give the phone case to the teacher and the teacher never even knows. So there's that as well. So maybe you should iterate that, check to make sure it's a phone. But yeah, I definitely agree. This is a great bill or whatever it is. And I agree, this is great. A lot of students are very distracted in classrooms, but I feel like during the lunch period, they should be allowed to have the phone. Because during lunch period, sometimes even I like to look up stuff that I didn't get in the classroom, or maybe some questions that I just, have about what I'm learning. And I know a lot of people have addressed they want to move to high school with this, and I feel like maybe during class periods, but definitely not during lunch periods, because I have like a job and my boss is contacting me during school sometimes, and I got to schedule meetings with people. I have after school clubs I got to organize, and that just, it's all online nowadays. And shifting that, it would be like going back before we even had phones. Because, phones were originally used and initially made to help us learn and communicate with people. So I feel like taking that away would just especially for people in high school, would just be a terrible mistake. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You have offered us a very unique perspective, and we're glad to have heard it. Elizabeth.
Thank you. I'm Elizabeth, a student at Dunwoody High School. Thank you. I just want to express some concerns. Elementary and middle school is a very developmental time in a woman's life, and I just want to, what if a girl gets her period and then she has to contact her parents, and maybe she won't be able to just get the necessities that they need to be able to properly deal with that. And some elementary schoolers don't get their sex ed education before they actually get their period. And so they might be clueless and a little worried. Because it's just to put this back on myself, it happened with my sister recently, and I think her phone was very helpful because it allowed my mom to go to her and, pick her up and take her out of school just to just make sure that she wasn't embarrassed by bleeding through her pants. And I also want to say, a lot of people are saying that we should bring this to 9 through 12. I just want to reiterate the point that some of us have jobs and have very busy after school lives. I also am a part of a lot of clubs, academic team. I just want to say, sometimes the weather can get things canceled, or sometimes, things get put off to last minute, and they might, things change around a lot. So I just want to make sure that bell to bell, maybe refine some of that wording to make sure so it's accessible to high school students.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. We appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Do we have any further questions from the committee? And let's remember that we have another bill to do and we have to be out of here at 3. Representative Lupton.
I hit my bell because I hit my light because my suggestion was just what the representative from Page said. Is it a poison pill to put a staged, by the school year 2027-28? I understand that passing this bill will be the shot over the bow that says this is coming, but could we put it in is it a poison pill to put in the legislation that sort of staged implementation?
Oh, hang on. There you go.
We could, and there's a lot of advocates of this bill that you've heard from. They want to go through 9 through 12, but you've heard from some students, there's a lot of complexity involved 9 through 12. As they were talking, my wheels were spinning of, yeah, maybe we pass K through 8 and this with a 9 through 12 option that goes into effect school year 2027. You know, I don't know if that's any different than passing a bill in the, what's,
Totally not trying to mess with the chi here.
yeah.
Let's not make perfect the enemy of good. So I just didn't know.
I'll noodle on that in between sub and full, and yeah. Yep.
Chairman Chokus.
At the appropriate time, Madam Chair.
You're done. You're good. Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, shall this bill now pass? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Okay,
Great.
you're on to full. Thank
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, now I have my bill that I will present. So I'm going to turn this meeting over to Chairman Chokus to run this portion. Clear up all my belongings.
Okay. 307, what is? Right, Madam Chair. Let's hear HB 307. And you're on.
Okay, thank you so much. You wouldn't think it would take this much situating just to move like a chair to the front of the room. But it does. Okay, I have LC 492249S. And this is simply a continuation of our literacy efforts, which have been a speaker priority and a priority of this House for a number of years now. And even though it's a little on the long side, it's pretty simple. It removes some outdated language of programs that do not align with the science of reading standards that we passed and the governor signed into law in 2023. It prevents 3Qing from being used in Georgia and makes it very plain that 3Qing curricula are not to be included in our high quality instructional materials. And it adds dyslexia to the Georgia Early Literacy Act based on recommendations from the Council on Literacy. So that is what it does. And I've got phone a friend up here, a couple people if we have questions.
All right, well, you do. Number 11.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank you. My daughter had a terrible time in school with 3Qing. It did not serve her. She could not sound out words. But because she was so stubborn, her grades were good. So we could not get proper testing for her because
Your child was stubborn? I can't imagine.
a little bit. So her grades were not suffering, but at home she could not sound out simple words because she didn't learn how the vowels work together. I love this. Can we get this faster? But thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Very good. Number 28.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Chairwoman, first of all, introduce the two at the table with you, if you would.
I have Scott Johnson, who is the chairman of the Georgia Council on Literacy, and I have Sarah Richards, who is Georgia's literacy coach. That's your title.
Great, thank you. And another question, if I can, Mr. Chairman. Discuss the process of, and I won't call it a cleanup, but this to 538, House Bill 538. We understand the dyslexia and the 3 queuing, but talk your process out, especially since you have the 2 next to you that I'm sure you worked with.
Oh, yes, this was a labor of love between the council and the Department of Education and all of us who love children. And Sarah, do you want to walk through some of this?
Yes. Thank you. And thank you, Madam Chairwoman Ballard, for bringing this bill. The council strongly supports this bill, which is combining a lot of the language of 538 and HB 538 and Senate Bill 48 to align what we need as far as clarification for schools around the screening of students. So as you probably are aware, there was we approved screener list that's going to take effect next year. And so this ensures that students will be screened for both reading difficulties and for dyslexia, characteristics of dyslexia, 3 times during their school year. So this clarifies that for schools and also ensures, and the process in which we came to this, all this was going through in collaboration with Representative Ballard and with, as well as the Department of Education. And we have, I know Dr. April Aldridge is here with us today and can also answer any questions because I worked jointly with Amy Denty and Jennifer Lindstrom on this so it is a joint effort between the council and the Department of Education, who all are in agreement that this will streamline this for schools, will help and support the identification of students for characteristics of dyslexia. And there are several other pieces which I can answer questions on that the language is streamlined in terms of putting these 2 bills together in a way that is necessary for schools.
Thank you. And I want to add that, one of the things we do with streamlining this, we don't want our teachers to have to be doing double duty, one for dyslexic students and another thing for students who are, learning to read, who are neurotypical without any difficulties. We want to make our teachers' lives easier and streamline these things so that they can get on with the business of teaching our children to read. You want to add anything?
Scott Johnson, the chairman of the Georgia Council on Literacy. I'll just add that all parts of this bill are consistent with the work of the council, and in our meeting in late 2024, I believe in November 2024, we got a presentation. The full council got a presentation on the alignment of this of Senate Bill 48 from 2019 and House Bill 538 from 2023, and wanted to ensure that there's no difference that of misalignment between those. And as been said, Dr. Aldridge from the Department of Education, Ms. Denty, Sarah Richards, who's here with us today, and others, Dr. Lindstrom, were instrumental in making sure that we had alignment and a good bill that Representative Ballard could present to you today.
That's good. Thank you.
Number 15.
Thank you. So you're not Madam Co-Chair Nancy, right?
I don't know what I am when I'm down here.
Listen, thank you for continuing to work on this critical issue in our state. But I do have a couple of questions. I love the fact you said that there's going to be 3 times a year they'll be assessing the students. But I need a little clarity on the screeners, because I'm thinking through some of the legislation that we passed previously where we were restricting the types and the screeners, and it was for the dyslexia legislation. I understand the alignment, but can you kind of add a little more detail there? And then with the screening being for the dyslexia screening and literacy screening, my concern would be capacity. So how are we ensuring that teachers are prepared and we have enough educators to be able to address what we need? And then
Not smart enough to know all your questions,
She will.
to remember all your
Okay,
questions.
do one at a time.
Okay.
The screeners, I'm sorry.
Okay, the screeners, they will simultaneously screen for the reading level and for characteristics of dyslexia.
Okay.
So it's one screener that will do both things.
So the schools won't have to purchase additional screeners if they already have them?
There will be a free screener offered to school districts from the Department of Education. So they will not have to purchase anything. There will be a free screener provided.
Okay, and so the list of screeners is only if they want additional screeners?
They can choose from the list if they want to purchase one on their own, but they don't have to.
Right, gotcha. So
Okay.
the free screener will be sufficient for the dyslexia
Yes.
screening and regular, now we're saying regular, non-dyslexic students, yeah.
So for clarification,
Okay.
currently there are two different lists related to screeners. There is a screener for characteristics of dyslexia list, and there is a screener for reading difficulties. Schools are required to give both right now. However, the characteristics of dyslexia screener is now required once a year. The 3 times a year is the reading difficulties. A new list of vetted, approved screeners has already been approved for next school year by the state board. And there will be one offered free to schools. And the Department of Education could speak further to this, but this will align it so there's one list of very high quality screeners that will screen for both areas, as Chairman Ballard stated. And so it makes it simpler and easier for schools in terms of looking at the students and identifying students that may need support.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. And then the other one was about capacity. I was trying to make sure that capacity from a standpoint of ensuring that we had teachers available or in the pipeline, or how we were going to ensure that we have the resources from an educator standpoint to be able to fulfill the need that we are attempting to address.
I think we are working on that very diligently, and our teachers are getting trained, and our teacher candidates who are in college are getting trained, and it is all hands on deck, and we are working on that as hard as we can.
Okay. And the other part, I think you addressed the funding aspect, because the DOE is going to cover that, but will there be state funding associated with it?
Yes.
Gotcha. Thank you. Oh, I can't leave out.
All right, number 29.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can't commend you all enough for working on this. And I look back over what's been done the last couple of years as it relates to literacy. You know, when I sat in my office a couple of years ago and the folks from a dyslexia screening standpoint came and they showed if we could screen earlier and more often, how much further ahead those students could be, just 1 or 2 grade levels ahead, how much money, let's be honest, how much money that therefore could save the state of Georgia, and where it would put us educational, where the advancement from an education standpoint would be for all students combined. I can't thank the council enough. I can't thank you, Chairman Ballard, for working on this. But I think that the key word that I've heard here today, and I hope the committee hears, is alignment. This isn't 6 hands in a pot trying to stir in the same direction. This is one collective hand being held in the same pot, moving in the same direction. And I just think that from the seat that I sit in, that speaks volumes to where we've come and where we're going. And so I just, again, can't commend you enough. And Mr. Chairman, when all the questions are exhausted, I'd be happy to make a motion.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the appropriate time, we will call on you for that, but we have several speakers that want to speak on this measure. And in the interest of time, because we do have to vacate this premises, I would like y'all to limit y'all's message to 1 minute each. So who's first? Missy Purcell. Thank you.
Afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. As both a parent and a former educator, my child was actually subjected to 3Qing as a method of teaching him to read, and it left him as a failed reader and unable to read in the 5th grade. He experienced shattered confidence, anxiety, and a belief in his own self that faded. No child should have to experience that. Decades of science are clear that skilled reading comes from decoding words, not guessing. 3Qing is guessing. I know some concerns have been raised about banning 3Qing. Some claim it helps students with special needs, English learners, or what we call multilingual learners. This is simply not true. It's a myth. Research has shown that multilingual learners and English learners benefit most from explicit phonics instruction, just like all other students. They need structured, systematic instruction in decoding and phonemic awareness, not as a guessing strategy that leaves them struggling like my son with unfamiliar words. 3Qing does not support these students. It sets them further behind. There's also a misconception that banning 3Qing would take away picture books from classrooms. This is false. Picture books play a vital role in early literacy by building vocabulary, background knowledge, and comprehension, but they should not be used as a tool to encourage word guessing instead of decoding. The goal is to ensure that students can read those books, not just use pictures to guess their way through them. I urge you, let's ensure that our literacy policies align with HB 538, with research, and where this truly helps students learn to read. The future of Georgia's students depend upon it. We also talk a lot about our teachers adding more to their plate. This bill, if we pass it, will take one thing off their plate, an ineffective tool that does not help them help their students. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And Beth Haynes.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm the state leader for Decoding Dyslexia, and we very much support this bill. I am not an educator, but I have the words of an educator from Marietta City Schools. She's a 1st grade teacher at A.L. Burris Elementary, and made the switch to structured literacy 3 to 4 years ago, and also the switch away from 3Qing, and these are her words. Good afternoon. My name is Allison Taylor. I'm a lifelong Georgia resident and have been an educator in Title I schools for 22 years. Apologize I could not join you in person today, though I wanted to be sure that my feelings and the feelings of so many other teachers throughout the state of Georgia are heard. Many of us teachers who have seen benefits of structured literacy in the classroom cannot believe the way that our lives and the lives of our students have been transformed by the practices established in the Early Literacy Act. We are teaching in a way that makes it more and more clear each day we cannot go back to the way we taught before. As legislators leading our literacy journey throughout the state, you must take the time to recognize, as many educators already have, that we have made mistakes in our past, that we should embrace the knowledge in our present, and we must plan for a future where every child in Georgia has the right to read. To continually allow teachers, school systems, and college preparatory classes to allow 3Qing is leaving one foot in the past. You must make it clear throughout the state that we will only use high-quality instructional practices, and we will not rely on or give teachers a space to fall back on pedagogical practices we know don't work. Recognize that the future of our state relies on the teaching that happens in classrooms today. Please vote yes on this bill to continue to support literacy in Georgia and confirm that 3Qing is no longer an acceptable practice. Literacy instruction, as well as our students' future, depend on it. Thank you.
And next up is Mary Hanley Gaddis. And if you would, please keep it to a minute. We'd like to hear from everyone.
Okay, then I'm not going to read what I wrote because I don't know how long it's going to take. I'm also ashamed that it's on my phone after hearing this morning. But anyway, I'm Mary Hannah Gaddis, and I support literacy efforts in Marietta City Schools. So you heard from my superintendent earlier. You heard from one of our first grade teachers just now. And I would just like to say thank you so much for the work that you're doing and just putting this punctuation mark on the Early Literacy Act and specifically calling out that 3Qing is a no-go. And I just wanted to say for people who may not know what 3Qing is or may not have ever worked in a school, and textbook companies and consultants are pretty savvy, and they'll put lipstick on a pig, and teachers just want to do the best job that they know to do. And if they're given materials that are not in alignment with structured literacy, sometimes they will fall back on older practices. And so I appreciate you. In Marietta City Schools, we've seen the fruits of this labor, and thank you for the work you're doing.
Good. Thank you. Very good. And we've got Michael O'Sullivan. And you can be brief.
Yes, I'm back and we commend this body and thank Representative Ballard for this bill. Literacy has been something that we've worked on for 6-7 years now since the first Dyslexia Act. 3Qing should be barred from Georgia. 14 states have already done it. Multiple more are considering it. Georgia should join that list. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michael. John Sonner.
I'm gonna wave.
Great, thank you. That was very good. Okay, Miranda Williams is online. Good.
Hi, everyone. It's Miranda Williams with ExcelinEd in Action. Thank y'all so much for having me again today. And I want to say a special thank you to the Georgia Council on Literacy and Chairman Johnson and the Georgia Literacy Coach and Chair Lady Ballard. I'm just so excited that this work is continuing. 538 and SB 48 were huge steps toward the right direction for literacy in Georgia. And we're so excited that this bill includes the 3Qing ban, like many other speakers have spoke on. 3Qing, one of the ways that 3Qing is used in classrooms is using visual cues or visual illustrations. So what that would look like is a teacher may have a book and it says, this is a word that the student doesn't know, but they would see a picture of a frog on the page. And so they would say, this is well, what do you think this word is? It starts with an F and I see this picture here. And so the child would then guess and they would say, oh, it's a frog. But when students get past the 3rd grade and they're in middle school and high school, they don't have illustrations to rely on. And so that's why phonics instruction is so important. So I wanted to share what it could look like in a classroom. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I see no more speakers. Mr. Chairman, you're recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pull my LC number back up here. I move that LC 492249 by committee substitute to pass.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Super. I see none. Well, let's vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Unanimous.
I guess next week.
I'm gonna let her adjourn.
Oh, adjourned.